I keep saying that I picked these things up for friends, and I did, I promise. It's not just a way for me to say, I bought it for myself. Hi, my name's Mark and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm in Denver, Colorado, and I'm doing one of my absolute favorite things, which is being a yarn tourist. I'm going to visit several of the great local yarn shops across the city of Denver, and today I'm taking you with me. Here we are. That's it. Behind me. Welcome to Denver. So if you're interested in spending a little bit of time with me, coming yarn shopping, or at least window shopping for the day, then stick around and let's get into it. All right, today's plan is to get to 4 or 5 of Denver's local yarn shops. Whenever I'm traveling, I always like to see if there are local yarn shops, and I like to go in, whether I have a plan, whether I have a project in mind, or even if I have the budget to shop or not. I think it's important to see what shops are around. You never know who you'll meet, what you might be exposed to, and what you might be inspired to do because of that visit. So, a word from today's sponsor, Craftsy, before we go to our first shop. Craftsy is my online resource for all things creative. Recently, I took a class from Laura Nelkin on designing your own cowl. The class covered everything needed to build and design your own knit cowl, including templates, worksheets, and great guidance for anyone new to self-drafting patterns. One reason I love a class like this and a project that's so customizable is because typically on my travels, I end up with smaller amounts of souvenir yarn. I'll typically buy a skein or two, which isn't enough for me to make a full sweater project. So sometimes I'm at a loss for what to do with this very meaningful and beautiful yarn. Cowls, hats, and gloves can all be a great way for me to use up the smaller quantities in my stash. In addition to Laura's class on designing your own cowl, Craftsy offers classes from the most simple knit and crochet design all the way to complicated cables and colorwork. There's something for everybody there. Craftsy offers more than 2,000 classes in over 20 popular categories. Everything from knitting and crochet to cake decorating, woodworking, and more. If you're interested in exploring any of these classes on Craftsy, follow my link in the description box or scan the QR code on screen to get your first full year of Craftsy Premium for only $1.49. This offer is valid for new members only. Thank you again to Craftsy for sponsoring today's video and for helping me figure out what to do with all of my souvenir yarn from my various local yarn shop travels. Now, for our first shop of this Denver tour. Our first stop of the day is Lamb Shop here in Denver, Colorado. Let's head inside and see what we find. Lamb Shop in Denver describes themselves as the coziest yarn shop for knitters, crocheters, and makers. They're located in a charming 1920s trolley-lined shopping area, now populated with a garden shop, an ice cream store, restaurants, and the yarn shop. They feature everything from local Colorado yarns to brands you've probably heard of and seen maybe in your local shop, as well as some unusual hand-dyed yarns and lots of kits. Lamb Shop was my first stop of the day, so I arrived right when they opened at 10 a.m. and I was immediately charmed. I think the store is incredibly beautiful. I was blown away by the custom shelving all around. A beautiful way to display all of the yarn. Lots of islands of different items, and everyone working was extremely friendly, extremely helpful, but also let me look around and take my own time. I ended up purchasing a small notions bag for a friend and a couple of shop-specific notions and goodies for me to take home as souvenirs. Lamb Shop was a beautiful way to start my day, and it's a shop that I hope I'll get to visit again in the future. Next up, I got to briefly visit Yarn Shop Denver in downtown Denver. I struggled to make my way there because I'm terrible with directions, so even with my map showing me the way, I have all sorts of struggles. So don't trust me if we're ever on a road trip together. I didn't take any footage inside the shop, but on my way out, I had the chance to speak with the owner, Cassandra, and hear a little bit of her story in starting this shop. So if you're in downtown Denver and you're looking for some fiber, this is a great place to check out. All right, pardon the dappled sunlight here on me. I'm hiding from the sun, basically standing in a tree, but we are here at Edgewater Public Market to check out the Tangled Ball. I'm excited to see another great local yarn shop, so let's head inside and see what they've got in store. The first thing I have to say about this shop is how incredible the setting is. This public market reminds me so much of Van Aken Market Hall back in Shaker Heights, which is right across the street from Around the Table Yarns, where I normally work. So it was really fun to walk into such a vibrant, sort of cool building full of great smells, beautiful shops, and lots of people. So if you are into that sort of scene, this is the perfect shop for you to visit. Now for a bit about the Tangled Ball. The Tangled Ball was started in 2020 by Marcia Korn, who came from a career in social work. Marcia had a desire for a local yarn shop that was even more local to her, that wasn't across the city, which I think is the birth of many local yarn shops. People wanting something that is an even closer part of their own community. So from that desire came the Tangled Ball. And I'd say this shop is equally vibrant, equally cool as the public market that it's a part of. Everything is organized beautifully, and there's a great range of fiber, notions, and books. Sort of everything you would want to explore in a local yarn shop. It was a little bit challenging for me to see all of the beautiful, beautiful project bags, things that I hadn't seen in person before, that I desperately wanted to purchase and take home with me. It's a good thing that I am on a tight budget and that I'm traveling, so I can't really take something big back home with me. Otherwise, I might have been in trouble. It was a lot of fun to look around, take everything in, and I appreciated that with both our first shop of the day and now at the Tangled Ball, I'm seeing products that I haven't seen before. I might have seen the brand or something else from those lines in other shops, but these products themselves, whether it's the colors, the designs, different types of tools and fiber, they're new to me, which I think is one of the best things about exploring a local yarn shop that is off your regular path, whether you're traveling or just going across town to try a different shop. Here I ended up with a little pair of scissors that a friend had mentioned that she liked, as well as 2 sets of needle stoppers. I used to think that needle stoppers were a very superfluous accessory, and you may believe that as you're sitting and watching this video, but at some point when I was traveling more with my projects and bringing them in and out of my bag several times a day, I did find that if things were a little bit crammed onto the circumference of my needles, I would lose stitches. And usually it's not a big deal, but in some cases, depending on how complicated the pattern is, it can be a very big deal. So I like to use needle stoppers for my projects. I always have several projects going on at one time. So this is an accessory that I don't really feel bad about buying because I can put it to use. and I can try to choose a pair of needle stoppers that, I don't know, goes with the theme of that project or that just makes me happy. So I ended up with these two sets, both of which I had not seen. I see needle stoppers at most every store I go to, but fortunately, there are hundreds and hundreds of different designs out there. So these two sets I thought needed to come into my collection. And that's the Tangled Ball. I loved this shop. It was really fun that it was part of a larger marketplace. And like I said, the store itself was vibrant, fun, engaging. There was so much to look at. And it was also a balanced and calm space. So we're 2 for 2 with really great yarn shops today. So let's get on the road and head to our next stop. All right, we've made it to Blazing Star Ranch here in Englewood, Colorado. This shop has a connection with an actual ranch where they have several alpaca. So I'm thrilled to go inside, see a lot of truly local fiber, and find out what else the shop has to offer. Let's go. Blazing Star Ranch is a family-owned and operated yarn, spinning, and weaving store with an alpaca ranch in Elizabeth, Colorado. They purchased their first alpacas in 2010 and opened the retail store in 2012. So here we are at the retail store in Englewood, Colorado. They've got yarn, looms, and spinning wheels, something that I think is very exciting. It reminds me of all of my spinner friends back in Shaker Heights, Ohio. While I was in the shop, there was a local knitting group having one of their regular meetups, which was fun to see. I'll say so far, the first 3 shops we visited have all had large tables, large social spaces, which makes me happy. That's what I want. If I lived here in this community, I would want my local shops to have that option where I could go in and I could craft and connect with people in the community. And there was a lot of beautiful fiber, especially alpaca. You'll see the alpaca fiber, which was unbelievably squishy, unbelievably soft, and they all felt a little bit different. And also you'll see the animals themselves that the fiber comes from. So whatever you're buying here, if it comes from the ranch, they let you know which animal it came from, which I think is pretty cool. That's pretty special that you get a picture of the animal from which the fiber came. It really highlights how local and how unique that material is. And according to their website, they also do alpaca tours. Now, that's what I want. I need to come back and I need to schedule an alpaca tour, because what beats meeting the actual animals? I ended up with a little bit of yarn I couldn't resist. I've worked with alpaca before, alpaca that comes from South America, and I have an entire cardigan out of alpaca. And it's one of the most beautiful, one of the softest and most luxurious things I own, and I really enjoy wearing it. So I was impressed to feel these fibers because they were similar in some ways to the alpaca I've worked with, but different, elevated, and I think maybe even more soft and more special. So I ended up, after perusing lots of different shades, lots of different color options of the alpaca, I ended up with this skein that I think will make a beautiful small project for me. So I'm very excited to start knitting with this and see how beautiful and special my project ends up being, because I think the source and the yarn itself are one of a kind. I also picked up a locally made hand cream for a friend. I keep saying that I picked these things up for friends, And I did, I promise. It's not just a way for me to say, I bought it for myself. Sometimes with my travel, especially if I get to go to a lot of shops, it feels overwhelming because I don't want to end up with too much stuff or too much fiber, too much yarn. So I try to be really judicious with my decisions. And so if I see something that I know I have a purpose for, then I'll get it. But I often see things that I think would better suit a friend, whether I've heard them mention that they want it or it's just something I know they'll use in their day-to-day. So that's Blazing Star Ranch. Now let's head out to our final stop of this petite Denver yarn shop crawl. I've made it to Colorful Yarns in Centennial, Colorado. This is on the south side of Denver, and I'm making my way to Colorado Springs for a friend's wedding this week. So I believe this will be my last stop for the day. So let's head inside and see what's in store. All right, here we are inside Colorful Yarns in Centennial, Colorado. There's a lot of yarn here, a lot of color, as the name suggests, but a lot of yarn and a lot of different brands. As I was walking around, I kept turning to the next side of an island display or turn the corner to another shelf, and it was brand after brand after brand. Worldwide brands that you would recognize and that people are looking for projects, and then all sorts of more local brands, indie dyers, just a little bit of everything. And there was so much stock. There was a lot of yarn in this yarn shop. So I took my time looking around, lots of things I hadn't heard of. So as I love to do in a local yarn shop, I took my time to feel the yarns, sort of inspect them, check out the color range, and try to tuck as much of that information away as I can for future projects. When I start a project and I have some idea of what I want the yarn to do, then I move to the next step of narrowing down what brand, what fiber content and fiber preparation and spin and ply might serve the product best. So that's one of my favorite things to do. That's what this video is, all of my favorite things about visiting local yarn shops. It's a great thing to do when you go to a shop and you actually get to feel the yarn, assess it, compare it side by side, put colors together, put it next to you, look in a mirror and see, okay, does this color work for me or not? It's all really, really valuable. So that was one of my favorite things that I got to do here. I couldn't find much information about the history of this shop online, so I don't have much to tell you there. I asked one of the people working how long the shop has been around, and I think they said that the shop has been around for at least 10, 15, if not 20 years. They're in their current location maybe for the last 5 years, but before that they were just on the other side of a shopping plaza, so I think that's true. So interestingly, today we visited 3 shops that have been around for a significant amount of time and are fairly historic to their communities in Denver, and then 1 shop that is newer, sort of pandemic times to now. And I hope you'll notice through the video that each shop is very different, although they may carry some products that overlap or look somewhat similar on the surface or to a non-crafter. To anybody who crafts and uses a lot of these supplies, you'll notice how different they are. And I think that reflects how they serve their specific audience, how they serve their communities, which is a beautiful thing. All right, at Colorful Yarns, I ended up with a few stickers and a really cute tape measure. Uh, Again, with travel, I don't want to take too much home, and I also don't want to just buy stuff. I want to make sure whatever I'm buying I can use, and I think I'll be able to use up 3 stickers and a tape measure. I like to keep one in every single bag, whether it's a crafting bag or not. I think tape measures are very valuable to have, especially as someone who makes garments. You never know who you might need to measure or when you'll be without that necessary tool. All right, as we wrap up this miniature yarn crawl through Denver, Colorado, I wanted to acknowledge that there are other yarn shops there. I didn't get to visit every shop or film in every shop just due to time constraints and my own schedule, my own abilities to get it all done in one day. So I hope you enjoyed getting to see these 4 shops and to go yarn shopping with me. I felt like I had all of you there along with me, which makes me happier. So I hope you've enjoyed it on your end. And one good thing about not getting to every store out there is that when I come back on future trips to Denver, I'll get to explore even more. So let me know in the comments if you have been to any of these shops before, if you're local to Denver, if you've traveled through, and if you have other recommendations for me. If you don't have answers to those questions, let me know something you liked about some of these stores. What was your favorite product you saw, or your favorite type of store that you could dream up? I always really appreciate you taking the time to watch these videos and sit and knit and craft and travel and talk with me. I never know exactly what's going to happen in each week's video, but it means so much that there are real people on the other side of this camera experiencing it with me. So I think that's all I have for today. I'm going to put the upcoming Patreon Zooms here on the screen. If you're watching this video the day it comes out, then there's a Zoom tomorrow, Sunday, the final Sunday of October, where we're going to sit and talk about some of our favorite crafting tools. We rambled onto this topic in a previous Zoom session, and everybody had so much to say. Long lists of their absolute favorite notions and tools and whatever helps them get their crafting done. So I said, that's a good enough idea that we should have a whole Zoom dedicated to show and tell for our favorite items. So we're going to do that on Sunday together. And if you're interested in joining any of those Zoom sessions, you can find out how in the link in my description box over to Patreon. You can also find me on Instagram and Ravelry. I'm always really happy to hear from you, whether it's over there or in the comments on these videos. So as always, I really appreciate you choosing to spend the time with me. Happy knitting, happy crocheting, happy crafting to you, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye.